All right, so couple of house cleaning items. When you're talking, please, talk into the mic because we got people online. Um, I'm going to just call you Mr. and Mrs. Smith just for sake of ease and clarity, okay? And I'm going to ask you a few questions up front. Try to put your mind in as what a homeowner would normally or say to you guys when you're out doing an inspection, okay? And that'll help us really sort of make this a little bit more better flow, and it'll be a little bit more on the realistic side, okay? So, all right, everybody ready? Okay. No, wait. I'll wait for you. It's okay.
I'm just holding everyone up.
Yeah. Take your time, Oscar. No hurry, no hurry.
We're good.
Okay. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, really appreciate you guys taking some time on a Saturday morning to meet with me and go over your project. I know you guys know this is a big project. You guys are going to be spending a lot of money, so I think it's a really good thing that you guys are spending the time interviewing the contractors that are going to be working on your home so you can choose who's best for you. When I was out, Mr. Smith, you and I did talk a little bit. What was really important to you about the contractor you're going to hire?
I actually had a bad experience at my parents' house a long time ago.
That's right.
I paid a guy a bunch of money, and he did half the work and disappeared. And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay, yeah. So it was that's right. When we were talking about some of the other things that the contractors went over with you, you did say that nobody really talked about their proposals or anything like that. They just basically kind of emailed you the estimates.
Yeah, it wasn't real detailed. They just told me how many, how big my roof was and how much it was going to cost, and that was really it.
Okay. How did you feel about that?
I mean, it got me a number, but it wasn't much detail. I still got a lot of questions to ask.
I gotcha. Okay, cool. And so you did say, have you done a project like this before?
Personally, no.
No. Okay. All right. Mrs. Smith, thank you for spending some time with me on Saturday. So let me ask you this: what's important to you in the contractor you're going to hire?
I just don't want anything bad to happen to our house.
Right.
I mean, we don't have anything currently wrong with our roof. I mean, we understand we have damage, but
yeah,
nothing currently is leaking.
So it's not leaking, right? You don't have any problems with the drywall inside and all that.
It's almost like don't do anything if nothing's wrong.
Right. Right. Okay. And so, when I did speak to Mr. Smith, he told me about he had a bad experience. Somebody took his money, which is terrible, okay? And you said you just don't want to have any problems. I mean, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm concerned about damage, maybe something getting broken while the roof's getting replaced, or
on your property, yeah.
Potentially having leaks,
yeah,
things like that.
I gotcha. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is your biggest concerns really are, you do know you have some issues with your roof, based on what some of the other contractors have said, which today I'm just going to go through a little bit what my findings are and sort of what my recommendations are so you can get a comfort level with that, okay? But what you also said was you just don't want to have any problems, and you don't want your property damaged, you don't want the inside of your home damaged, which is really understandable. And so when you say your property damage, I'm guessing, you have beautiful landscaping around your house. You don't want that damaged. What else are your concerns with your property?
We just have kids and dogs, and
okay.
From what I've seen, it can be pretty messy.
It's very messy. Yeah. Okay. Those are all great things. Okay. And when the other contractors provided you estimates, you said there wasn't a ton of detail on there, right? I mean, did you see some of those estimates?
I have not.
You have not seen those estimates?
No, they should have.
Mr. Smith, why didn't you show her the estimates?
Waste of her time. Without all the details, she doesn't care about that. She's worried about the price, but she's worried about all the details.
Okay, so you're more worried about your home and the process being good. So you're looking more for somebody that you can trust, somebody's going to do a really good job and care for your property and be a little bit more conscientious. So you're saying prices. I mean, it's important, right? But it's not the most important.
Exactly.
Okay, cool, great. So, Mr. Smith, you know roughly what this is going to cost already then, right? You've had a few estimates, and they've all been, I'm guessing there's been some variance, but kind of in the same ballpark?
Correct.
Okay, great, cool. So what I'm going to do today, all right, so we're going to cover a few things today. What we're going to cover is, this thing will move. Okay, so what we're going to cover today, just gonna be with you about 15, 20 minutes. I know you guys are busy, okay? But this is a big project, and I just wanna make sure that, A, we go through your inspection so you know what my findings are and basically what my recommendations and why. We're gonna talk a little bit about our proposed solution. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about choosing a contractor. You've brought up some really, really great points about cleanliness, causing damage, all of those things, which are very important. And unfortunately, you can't tell the quality of the company just based on those very undetailed estimates that you've gotten, right? So we'll talk a little bit about choosing a contractor, how you guys should be interviewing your contractor, a little bit about us, and then next steps. Okay, sound good? All right, great. So our inspection process, what we do is we inspect, we grade, and then we make a recommendation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the roof. We're gonna look for visually torn or damaged shingles. We're gonna look for flashings that might be damaged. We're gonna take a look around the rest of the roof, loose materials, granulation loss. So we have a few criteria of what we use to determine if a roof is repairable or not. And really what it comes down to is the granulation, workmanship, basically the condition of the shingle, and then the overall condition of the roof and workmanship. All right, that's the one thing we can't fix is poor workmanship. So that's one thing we look at as well, okay? And then I did a full attic inspection. I wanna make sure that there's just no secondary damage, there's no plywood that we can see leaks or anything we might need to address that we can cover in your estimate. Now, did any of the other contractors, did they climb in your attic? I mean, do you know, were you around?
We weren't at home when they came over.
You weren't home? Really? So you don't even know if they did a full inspection, nothing?
They said they came by and took measurements and then said, yeah,
Are you comfortable with that?
not a lot.
Okay. Well, the reason that we find it very important to do an attic inspection, so these are some pictures of things that we found on asphalt shingle roofs, and the reason we do a full attic inspection. So as you can see, we found evidence of leaking, and this isn't your house, so just, I don't want you to, Mrs. Smith, I don't want you to freak out, okay? But we found evidence of leaking. This was the big one. We did find a couple rafters that were very badly cracked. And if somebody would have loaded those heavy shingles on your roof in an area where we had something like that, could have caused a problem. So for us, doing this attic inspection is probably one of the key points that has to happen at minimum in order to give you an accurate estimate. Then we look for flashings. You guys have a chimney, so we check the flashings around the chimney. We look for poor adhesion, which means the shingles, either they stick together well or they don't. That's what actually gives us its wind resistance, not necessarily the nailing. And then we look for nails. We look for the condition of the nails because that'll tell us if the water's getting through the shingle or not. And then we also look for the exposed black, which is the asphalt, which is kind of the workhorse of your shingle, so to speak. That's what gives it its water resistance, okay? So, time out. This is where I would go through their inspection photos, show them what we found on their roof, right? And so I'm gonna just kind of play that we're doing that, and then I'll move into the rest of my presentation. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, does it make sense what we look at on the roof and why?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions about that?
Thanks.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna show you what I found on your roof. Here is the condition of your shingles. It's missing a lot of granulation. So as you can see, that black asphalt that we talked about that's showing, you have a lot of that showing. We also did find some of the rusty nails in 3 facets of that roof. But the big issue for us is your chimney. Your chimney's not flashed correctly. And so when I went into the attic, we did see that there was some leaking. It didn't make it into the house yet, but that is definitely something that can happen and that will happen if this goes too much longer, okay? And then the rest of the inspection, there wasn't a ton of stuff. I mean, I would recommend that we put some gutters on your home just to help manage the water. And I'll show you a couple places on the outside if you'd like, where we can see the water is running off and it is causing some issues. But I just put that as a line item in your estimate as an option just in case you want to do it, okay? Now, based on the photos that I've shown you, what's your opinion of the condition of your roof?
I didn't know that it was leaking because I didn't see any damage on the inside, so that's good to know.
Yeah, right. However, I mean, Mr. Smith, what about you? What's your?
I'm kind of surprised my insurance company came out a couple months ago and they said I was good for 10 more years.
right? Well, and this is again why it's really critical to get in that attic, right? And so what I'm hearing you say is we were the only people that actually got in there, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so based on what we just talked about, what I've shown you, what do you think your overall assessment is and what we should do about it?
Sounds like we probably need a new roof pretty soon.
Yeah, so we can agree unfortunately, it's probably that time?
Yeah.
Okay, right, and I know you said you didn't see any leaking. We did find some, but we can take care of that pretty easily, not a big deal. So I put some new chimney flashing as a line item in your estimate, okay? Okay, great. Now, here's the thing. Most contractors, they just give you estimates, and you guys have been given some estimates, and all they did was write down the size of your roof, maybe some material, and then a price on it, right? But what generally isn't talked about in our industry is I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on our industry, all right? Unfortunately, according to the Better Business Bureau, contractors have one of the highest rates of complaints in the United States. Did you guys know that? No. Why would you think that is?
Practically rip people off like they did my parents.
There we go. Took the money, right? They didn't get in the attic, so they didn't know about the leaking, so they didn't include it on the estimate, and so you guys had no idea about it. So the expectations weren't met. You guys didn't get a real clear picture of what was going to happen or what was going on. The other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, according to the SBA, in 1 year, in the first year, about 50% of contractors fail. The really crazy part is within 5 years, 96% of contractors fail. That means you guys have a 4% chance of hiring the right contractor if you hire somebody that's been in business less than 5 years. Did you know that?
No.
It's kind of crazy, right? Yeah. The other really insane part is, according to a Harvard study, there's $420 billion that's spent on home improvements every year. 40% of that money is spent either fixing abandoned projects or improperly installed projects. Can you wrap your mind around the amount of money that either homeowners, insurance companies, or like in Florida here, we have a contractors fund where if a contractor abandons a project or doesn't complete it and they're a licensed contractor, the state will cover some of the cost or cover the cost. But that's part of that 40%. Has anybody told you guys about that? Did you have any idea?
That's great.
Yeah. When you guys were doing research on contractors, was this something that you looked into?
No.
Really? Wow. So knowing what I just showed you, you told me, but have you ever had a bad experience with a contractor?
No, I just let him talk to the contractors.
Oh yeah, so then if something goes wrong, you just blame him? You're terrible. That's not very nice. All right. So with what I just showed you, okay, with the complaints with the Better Business Bureau, with the failure rate so high and all of those things, how would you guys say is a good way to hire a contractor, or at minimum, interview a contractor so you choose the right one for you?
Probably Google reviews, Better Business Bureau. I asked some of my neighbors also who they used.
Yeah, great. Those are all great things. How about you, Ms. Smith?
Probably look for someone that maybe someone I knew used.
Right, so recommendations, right, I mean, that's usually pretty good. So good recommendations, Google reviews, Better Business Bureau. So those would be the three big ones, right? Okay, and that's what most people say, okay? Most people, they go on Google and they see, what contractors are highly rated and all of that stuff, Better Business Bureau. The problem with the Better Business Bureau is they're kind of pay to play, the accredited contractors can kind of keep a better rating than the non-accredited. And we were kind of a victim to that, but we can talk about that later if you want. So here are 7 key factors that we've found over the years. So I've been doing this for 30 years. And I've talked to a lot of customers and kind of figured out what they look at and what they wish they would have looked at when they were interviewing or hiring their contractor. And so we've gotten this down to 7 key factors to choosing a contractor, okay? So you want to choose a contractor that gives you a detailed inspection report. Now, when I showed you all of those pictures from your inspection, I created a full photo report for you, so I'll give that to you with your proposal, okay? Did anybody else give you a bunch of detailed photos, kind of show you what was going on? No? Okay. Okay. It's no big deal. So the other one is you want to hire a contractor that's done at least 1,000+ jobs. And the reason that is because you want to know that they have a long track record of completing quality work. And that kind of goes, if you can't get a referral or a reference, right, this is something that you would want to look at to make sure you hire a quality contractor. The other one is you want to review the reviews, right? So you want to hire a company that has a minimum of 150 reviews with a rating of 4.7 or better. The other thing you want to do is you want to read through those reviews. People don't talk about this a lot, but you can buy reviews, unfortunately. And so you want to read reviews and you want to see, do they reference people in the company? Do they reference the company, or are they broad and generic, all right? And then more importantly, you want to look at the bad reviews and see how the company responded and handled those, all right? Then you want to check their certifications, their license, and insurance. Those are 3 critical parts, especially here in Florida, all right? You want to make sure they're certified, licensed, and insured. The other one is look and see what manufacturer certifications they have. Did they do any training or get certified for the products that they're going to install in your home? Generally, that means they've gone through the installation training, and you're probably going to have a better chance that they're going to do a good quality installation so you keep your warranty. The other one is the high quality installers. You want to know who's going to be on your roof and how they've been trained. So it's a good thing to ask these contractors, like, who's actually doing the work, all right? Good products in the hands of a bad installer will result in those leaks and those things that you're really concerned about, okay? And then the last one is high quality materials. What are they going to be using? What products are they going to be using? You want to know exactly what's being installed on your roof, right? You're paying a lot of money here. You need to know exactly what's going to be installed, okay? Does all that make sense? Okay, great. So I'll go through just sort of a little bit about us and why we're kind of structured the way we are, all right? Now, before I get into this, do you have any questions about those 7 key factors? Out of those 7 key factors, give me 2 that would be the most important to you.
Material, I was curious what kind of material you're going to be using.
Okay, great, yeah. And I'll go through in detail what we're going to use. I have everything line itemed out so you'll know exactly the product, what it is, and the quantity. Okay? How about you, Ms. Smith?
I think it's important to look at how the company responds to negative reviews. I wouldn't have thought to do that.
I love that. Okay. Just out of curiosity, when you called us and you had us come out, what was the reason for you calling us?
I saw your rating, and then I had seen one of your yard signs down the street.
Okay, so you looked and said, yeah, we have a 4.9 with like 550 reviews, and you're like, yeah, they're pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
And
that.
that you were in the neighborhood.
Oh, right, and we're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, all right, so the reviews are big, the quality material, so those are the 2 big ones. Okay, great. For us, we've learned that I don't like surprises on my home, and I'm sure you don't like surprises either, right? And this is why that detailed estimate and detailed inspection is really critical, okay? You guys said you weren't even home when some of these people did your estimate. And then even further, they just gave you this vague, generic estimate with a number on it and very little detail. So how do you know that you're gonna get quality materials if they don't specifically lay that out and tell you what they're gonna use, and more importantly, how they're gonna be installed? You don't, right? And I would go even further that if I wouldn't have gone in your attic, I wouldn't have found that your chimney's leaking, right? You would have never known, maybe never known, who knows? Or even worse, you hire somebody else, they didn't have that in their estimate, and now you're gonna pay more money that you didn't think you had to spend. That's not fair either, right? So this is why those detailed inspections are critical. This is why we would never, ever just give you an estimate off satellite imagery, all right? Now, for us, we know construction. We have over 3,000 projects installed in Tampa Bay area, okay? Which it's actually more than 5,000, but we don't want to overwhelm people. We have a really cool tool on our website. Did you go on our website? No? Okay. Yeah, just whenever you get time, go on the website if you want. We have a really cool tool on there. You can select your area and it'll pull up a map and it'll show you all the projects that we've installed right around your neighborhood. So the one we did in your neighborhood, it'll show up on there. And you can see all the ones that we've done in the neighborhood. So guys can know that we've hit that benchmark of a minimum of 1,000 projects installed, so you know that we can do your job with some credibility, okay? We have a ton of 5-star reviews, which you already said. Right now we're over 550 with a 4.9 rating, which we're very proud of. You don't keep that rating without doing right by your customers with that many reviews. And then, like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, so we're very experienced. There's not much my team hasn't run across, all right? Now, with us, we're one of the highest rated contractors in Tampa, okay? I'm sure you went out and looked and you see, most of them have 100, 200. We have 550 5-star reviews. But what I'm the most proud of about our reviews is that if you read through them, people take the time to write a long review about everybody that they dealt with in the company, which is huge for us because we want to make sure that we give you the best experience. Look, it's construction, things can happen. And there's nightmare stories that happen all the time. You had one, your parents had, they took the money and ran. You really don't want any leaks. You don't want any issues. So this is sort of a way that you can get a little bit of comfort that other people have had a great experience and that we consistently deliver that. It wasn't just a fluke that, we had in 1 or 2 or 3 reviews. These are some of the reviews. I'm not going to bore you with those. If you get some time and you want to, go ahead and go out and read those. The thing that I want to talk about now is knowing your license holder. So Florida law requires that not only does the company have to be licensed, but anybody that is on the roof installing, they have to either be a W-2 employee of that company or they have to be a licensed subcontractor. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Oh, you did know that. Fantastic. Okay, most people don't know that. So this is the license holder. If you look on the DBPR, which you can go on myfloridalicense.com, you can see that the owner, he has the licenses for the company. The other issue that most people don't know is about 60% of roofing contractors don't actually have workers' comp. Do you guys know that? Okay. So what they do is they use what's called a workers' comp exemption, and they register with the building departments. And what they're doing is they're relying on the crew that's going to be on your roof to carry that workers' comp. Well, I hate to tell you, in Florida, most of those crews don't have workers' comp, okay? Which means you, as a homeowner, could be exposed if somebody falls off the roof, hurts themselves substantially. You might get wrapped up, or your homeowner's insurance might get wrapped up in depositions and lawsuits and all of those things that you shouldn't have to be involved with. Did any of the other contractors explain to you how that works or talk about that? Did they show you their insurances? Okay, well, on our proposal, our insurance certificates are in there. If you need any other documentation, we'd be happy to provide it, okay? But you can go on the Florida Workers' Comp website and make sure that it's in force. So anybody that you're considering, I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you do that just to check and ensure that they do have workers' comp coverage, okay? All right, now, remember we talked about the Better Business Bureau and the complaints against contractors? This right here is one of the #1 reasons, those vague estimates. So let's say that I didn't show up here today and I didn't have this super detailed estimate and the only estimates you got were those really poorly written ones that didn't have much detail. And then you're expecting that you're getting certain things on your roof, that doesn't happen, and you're not gonna be very happy, are you? Right. So this is why detailed estimates are super critical. This is why we line item everything out, and more importantly, we talk about how we're gonna do it, what is included, what isn't included, and if there's any additional work that has to happen if we find things, and what those costs would be, and we can have a discussion with that before the project starts to make sure you're 100% comfortable with that. Vague estimates are the #1 cause for customer dissatisfaction. So you only get one chance to hire a contractor, okay? So some of the things we need to look at and some of the things when you guys are interviewing your contractor is, how do they train their installers? Who's gonna be on your roof? Who's actually gonna be doing the work? That's a big that's a big part of it. So you need to know what their performance standards are. Their setup and cleanup. How are they going to protect your property? You said that was one of your big concerns, was you don't want any of your property damaged. Well, how is that company going to set up? And more importantly, how is their team trained to make sure that that doesn't happen? We actually have a 20-page SOP that our crews go through when we train them on how to properly set up, how to cover, how to clean up, like all of our expectations on what has to happen so we deliver that consistency for you guys like what you see on our reviews, okay? The project management, you're gonna have somebody on site that's gonna be your contact so that if anything happens, you have any questions, concerns, anything, they're gonna be your point of contact that you can talk to. You don't have to worry about trying to call somebody that's not answering the phone or not getting back to you. You don't have to worry about any of that. This is how we manage our projects, all right? All of our documentation is in our CRM and in that where I showed you your photos so that we can be able to provide anything for you at any time. You're gonna get copies of everything, but more importantly, you'll be able to go, we're gonna invite you to our client portal. So you'll be able to go on, see your invoices, see your pictures, anything that's pertinent to your job, you'll be able to go out and get that on your own. So we're really good at managing our projects with technology. And then customer education. We want people to know that this is how they should interview their contractor. Price is a really poor indicator of quality, unfortunately, when it comes to contractors in the contracting world. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So do you kind of see how just looking at those estimates, you could miss a lot of this stuff if nobody told you about it?
For sure.
Gotcha. So in order for your project to go well, you have to have the right people in place, okay? And so this is what we have in place. So we have our scheduling coordinator. They schedule the job. They schedule the install, you know, all of that stuff. We have our production manager who his job is actually, well, it's actually a female now. We need to change this, but she manages all of these people. She coordinates and orchestrates it to ensure that your materials get delivered on time, that the material lists are accurate and correct, that your invoices get sent out on time and all of that stuff. Your permits, closing permits, all of those things, your inspections, all of that stuff gets scheduled. So that's her job. The crew lead, we meet with them before the job starts, make sure they don't have any questions or concerns or anything like that, explain the job fully to them. And then our project success managers, that's who's gonna be your point of contact throughout the entire project. If there's any delays, if there's anything that's gonna negatively affect you guys, he will be your point of contact. They will let you know. We're big about proactive communication. And then if you have any questions, concerns at all, anytime, you'll be able to call them directly and figure out exactly what's going on quickly. More importantly, okay, and I want to stress this, if there are any issues on your project, okay, that is their job to handle it immediately so it doesn't negatively affect you guys. So essentially, that's your eyes and ears to ensure the project goes smooth. You guys have any questions about any of that stuff? Okay, so before I show you guys your estimate, do you have any questions on how we train our installers and why it's critical that you know who's on your roof? Do you have any questions about any of that stuff? Pretty clear on all of it? Comfortable with it? Okay. And then the licensing and insurance. Do you have any questions on that? Do you understand why it's really important that you know that the company you're going to hire has the proper licensing and insurance? No questions on that? Totally comfortable with it? Okay, great. And then, you know, in terms of our team, the way that we're structured, do you have any questions about your contact or, you know, kind of how we would do your project? Do you have any questions on any of that? Pretty comfortable with it? Okay. Based on what I've shown you so far, how comfortable are you guys with South Shore to do your project?
Pretty comfortable so far.
Great. Well, that makes me feel good. Great. So is there any reason you guys wouldn't do business with us?
Other than price, I don't think so.
Other than price? Okay, great. So other than price, there's no reason you guys wouldn't do business with us?
I don't think so.
Great. Okay, cool. All right, let's move on. And I did ask you, I'm just surprised. I mean, none of the other contractors went through any of this stuff with you? They didn't cover any of this?
No, they said they didn't even have to be here. We didn't have to be there. They could just come when we were at work and email us the estimate.
Do you see why I find that crazy based on the stuff that we've just talked about?
A lot of information that we needed.
now we see what was missed because they didn't go in the attic.
Right.
It's a little bit frustrating.
I share your pain. I do. All right. So let's go through your estimate, okay? Now, when I came out, we talked about a lot of things, okay? Warranty was important to you guys. Quality obviously is important to you. And so what I've done is I've given you an estimate with the Golden Pledge, which only 2% of contractors in the US can offer this warranty, and it's backed by GAF, all right? And excuse me, what it does essentially is we're going to use all GAF products, and because of that, we're going to register your warranty with them. You will get a warranty backed by GAF. So even if we go out of business, this warranty is going to cover you, okay? They'll have another master elite contractor come out and take care of whatever the warranty is, all right? And so as part of this, we're going to take off your shingles all the way down to the plywood. We're going to fix any rotted plywood. We did see those 3 pieces that are by the chimney, so I have that included. I have the chimney flashing included in there as well. We're going to nail the entire roof deck to current Florida code, and then we're going to dry it in with synthetic, and we're going to use GAF starter, we're going to use GAF shingles, we're going to use GAF cap, and we're going to use GAF ridge vent. Okay, so you're going to get a full GAF roof system. All right, part of that's Florida compliant drip edge, and all of those different components that you have on your roof. I can go through them if you want, but we're covering all of your pipe vents, we're covering all of your goosenecks, and all of that stuff is in this estimate. Okay, do you have any questions on this estimate whatsoever? Okay, so for us to do that, you're going to be at $23,600. Okay, now is there anything on this estimate missing that you guys would need or want?
Are these the pretty shingles in different shapes?
Yeah, they have some different blending. Yeah, they have some nice colors. So we can pick some colors here in a minute. Okay, great. So am I missing anything at all? So nothing's missing on this estimate at all that you would need or want?
I think so.
Okay, so am I missing anything at all?
That's everything.
I mean, great. Let's get you on the schedule and pick some colors.
I'll maybe sign up.
I want those pretty ones.
Man, they didn't even object. That was great. That was fantastic. Let's go, right?
I just upgraded myself to designer shingles.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pull out an objection. But before we get to the objection handling, does anybody have any questions about the presentation and see why it's important to do the presentation the way that it was done? Got to do the show to get the dough, baby, right? You got to. So no questions on that. So
You're going through all these slides.
Jason asked, why didn't I do any price conditioning? Well, if you heard what I said you're going to spend a lot of money 3 different times, okay? That's price conditioning. No matter who you're going to hire, you're going to spend a lot of money. I said, this is an expensive project. So to me, that's price conditioning, okay? Any other questions? Cube.
If at that stage they ask, let's say, for all the flashings to be replaced, what would you do?
I would just say, yeah, we can absolutely do that. Let me give you, I can give you a cost to do that.
On the spot right there, or?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we just put it in as an option.
For that, your sales guys have a price list to follow on extra items, special items to add.
It's all in our estimating CRM. Yep.
It is in the CRM.
Yep. All they have to do is add that line onto the estimate and it'll populate the cost, just based on the linear footage. Yep. No other questions? All right. So we'll get into some objection handling.
I actually have another question. What if they were already facing, as an example, a company that is similar to yours?
Sure.
Because all the other companies, they were like just sending estimates, didn't do like a second presentation and everything. But what if there was a company that went through the attic, done like the presentation twice again, how do you differentiate yourself if they are on your level?
So for us, we haven't run across another company that sits down and goes in this level of detail with the homeowners. We just haven't had it happen, okay? At that point, when they object and they say, well, you know, this other company went through all this stuff and all this, then we've just got to figure out who they're the most comfortable with. And I'll ask them that. I'll be like, look, you have two quality companies, right? And I don't envy you to be in this situation. You guys are going to have to figure out who you're the most comfortable with and who you want to do business with. Price being equal across the board. So let's say, and I'll ask them, I'll say, look, let's lay these two estimates out on the table. Price isn't even a factor. Which company would you choose? I want to help you make that decision, even if it's not me. Mm-hmm. And generally, when you're sitting in front of somebody, they're not going to tell you it's the other company.
Yeah.
Right? And if they are like, well, you know, we would pick you. Okay, well, I thank you. I'm flattered. You know, can you just kind of give me an insight into why? And, you know, they might be like, well, we just like you better. Okay, great. Let's get you on the schedule. Or they might say, the other company's been in business a little bit longer. We're a little more comfortable with them. Okay, fair enough. Generally doesn't happen. I've run across that maybe once. And that's not an objection my sales team tells me we get. Because we meet every Wednesday and we talk about what they're seeing, what's going on, you know, so. All right.
I didn't feel like I was being sold at any point, which I think is huge because
There we go.
at no point my guard came up, and if this was happening with me, like I wouldn't even want to interview any other contractors because it was so thorough.
Well, and the other thing, if you pay attention, when I stopped a lot and re-engaged them, right? And I asked them, how do you feel about that? What's your opinion on this? You know, have you had a bad experience? How would you choose this? Tell me a little bit about that, right? Because I'm allowing them to engage and interact with me and build that like rapport and comfort level. If I just sit there for 30 minutes and puke all over them and I don't ask them questions and I don't engage with them, it's gonna be a much different dynamic. So that's the other thing is the give and take of this has to be there. And you have to engage and ask those questions while you're doing the presentation. So let's go through an objection, all right? So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you know, the cost to do this golden pledge is $23,682. Am I missing anything that you would need or you want on this estimate?
I will say it's quite a bit more than the other estimates that I got.
It's quite a bit more? Okay. Ms. Smith?
I can't really remember, but I think someone said all I had to pay was my deductible, so this is like way higher.
Yeah, so this isn't an insurance issue. So unfortunately, I didn't find any storm damage or anything that would warrant an insurance claim. So I would hate to say the person that told you that might be misrepresenting or misleading you a little bit. Okay? Yeah. So Mr. Smith, you said this is quite a bit more than the other estimates? Okay, so, and I can appreciate that, all right? When you looked at the other estimates, you told me there wasn't a whole lot of detail on there, correct? Okay, and we also talked about none of these contractors went over any of this stuff in detail. So you don't even really know anything about these contractors, right?
Just what I saw online.
Right. And they didn't go in the attic, they didn't provide you a full inspection, right?
Correct.
Okay, so are we actually making a fair comparison here if you don't have the information you need to actually know if this is a good or accurate estimate? I mean, did they cover the chimney flashing and those other estimates?
I would assume so. I hope so.
Remember what we talked about, the customer dissatisfaction, the number one reason? What was it?
Yeah, the accurate scope.
Yeah, the vague estimates, right? So are you comfortable with those other estimates that may or may not include everything that you need? Mrs. Smith, are you comfortable with that? Right. Okay. So I can understand where you're coming from though. I mean, look, if you don't mind me asking, what's the price difference?
A few thousand.
A few thousand, so 3,000?
About 3.
Okay, so 3,000, all right. So my mistake, if I gave you a much more expensive or a higher roofing system, I do have two other options that I can show you guys today that might be a little bit better or a little bit more in line with those budgets. Okay, so the second one that I have is an Atlas. It's still a great roof system. Okay, it's an Atlas Stormmaster Shake, which is a really good shingle. I actually have that on my house. The big difference is going to be the warranty. So the GAF is going to give you unlimited wind warranty. So if we have another hurricane and some shingles blow off, you just call us. You don't even have to deal with your insurance company. We'll come back and fix it, and we'll deal with GAF. Okay, so that's a big benefit. And then the other thing is if we go out of business, GAF is going to pick up that warranty. So that's kind of what you're paying for in this one. So this one's about $2,000 less. It's still got a good warranty. We're going to give you a 10-year workmanship on it, and then Atlas is going to give you a 15-year non-prorated product warranty. Okay, so I'm guessing nobody explained the warranty differences to you guys either, right? So the big difference in the warranty is the proration, all that stuff, okay? Now, we're going to give you a 10-year, which means if we make a mistake during the install, you have a leak or whatever due to our misapplication, we're going to come back and fix it for free. If you have any issues with the product within 15 years, Atlas is going to cover it 100% in 15 years, all right? Then the other one I have, and so that one's $21,300, okay? And then I have an IKO Cambridge, which is kind of our entry level. It's still a good roof. You know, there's nothing wrong with it, so I don't want you to think it's a cheap, but it's still a good roof. We put on a lot of it. It just has a little less of a warranty. So we only give you a 5-year warranty, and then IK only gives you a 10-year non-prorated product warranty. The big difference is because we're going to use some different products that we have to use in order to get the price point down for you. So that's the big difference between the three. It's really, the big difference is the warranties, okay? And then that one's going to be at $20,600. Which of these three options is going to work better for you?
Well, I'm worried that lower one doesn't have very much warranty, especially where we live.
Okay, so the lower one's out. Okay, so out of the other two, the Atlas or the Golden Pledge GAF, which one's going to meet your needs better? Which one?
I like the Golden Pledge, but the price is too high.
Tell me about that. What does that mean?
Just more than we planned on spending. I like the price of the Atlas one, but I like the Golden Pledge one. Can you do that?
Yeah, I love that, right? Like, I want a Ferrari, but the price is too high. You know what I mean? So I can appreciate where you're coming from, but I'd be really, really happy to put that Atlas on for you. It's still a great warranty, and it's still good coverage for you. And if that one's going to fit your price point better, I would feel good about that one. So can I go ahead and get you guys on the schedule with the Atlas?
I like the gold one.
Listen, and maybe I can help you out with this, okay? So we're talking about a difference of $2,000, okay? Right? So we're talking about a difference of $2,000 between the Atlas and the Golden Pledge. Okay, these are the two you're considering. So maybe I can help you out with this, guys. If you look at that over 25 years, okay, which is your warranty period, okay, so what are we looking at? 300 months there? So 300 months, $2,000, we're looking at about a difference of $6.50 monthly, okay? Is your peace of mind and your security worth $6.50? It is. Great. Let's get you on the schedule with the Golden Pledge. Let's go.
Let's go.
There we go. Yep. So that's how we handle price disparities, right? And that's how we use the best, better, good to close the sale based on a price objection, because we know that the only objection is price, okay? So I'm gonna back up real quick, and I'm gonna have them use the "we need to think about it" or "we don't make snap decisions," okay? So that way, because that's really the smoke screen most people are gonna use, right? Would everybody agree, we need to think about it, we need to talk about it, or a version of that's probably gonna be the first objection that gets whipped out, right? Okay.
Sounds like we got some homework to do on those two roofing systems to decide which one we want to get. So we want to think about it for a little bit.
Okay, so you guys need to think about it, which, look, I just gave you a ton of information, right? And which is completely reasonable. I've been doing this for a long time. Usually, when somebody tells me they need to think about it, it's for one of two reasons. Either they're uncomfortable with what I'm proposing or my company, or I didn't give them enough information to make a decision. Which one is it here, Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
I think it was just the price.
So it's just the price. Okay. So, right. Right back to price. Right? I mean, when it's a really elegant way to take away that. It's like, listen, when people tell me they need to think about it, and you got to be comfortable with saying this, but listen, I've been doing this for a long time. When people tell me they need to think about it, and I understand, I mean, this is a lot of information, this is a big decision. But from my experience, when they say that, they're either uncomfortable with my company or my proposal, or I just didn't give them enough information to make a decision. Which one is it here? And most of the time, I mean, I've backed them into a corner, right? Most of the time, they're like, no, that's not it. They'll maybe throw something else out there, and then I'll relieve the pressure and say, listen, you said you liked us. There was no reason you wouldn't do business with it. Is it my price that's stopping you?
It is the price.
Okay, great. I have 2 more options. Let's go through those, right? I mean, I've literally taken away every objection. If we can get to price, then that price scale is going to get you to somewhere where you can close the sale. Make sense? Okay.
What about when they push back after the initial, we need to think about it, to we always get new quotes?
I love that. I love that. Okay. So can you bring up the cube real quick and
You're good. So after the initial pushback of the objection of we need to think about it, and then you come back and you try to back them in that corner, if they come back and say, hey, we always historically get 3 quotes, or we believe we need to get 3 quotes no matter what.
Yep.
Where do you take it from there?
Yeah, so go ahead.
I hear everything you're saying, Corey. Just I don't make decisions like this on the spot. I'm going to think about it. I want to think about it for the weekend, get a couple other bids, and then we'll let you know on Monday.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, right? I mean, the conventional wisdom is we get 3 quotes and then we compare and all that stuff. Earlier when we sat down, I had asked you, well, actually when we talked, I asked you about the other contractors and you said you'd gotten a few other estimates already, correct? Right. And I asked you earlier, I said, so you basically know what this is going to cost, right? Okay. And then I'm sorry, man, my memory sometimes is a little, we went through your estimate. Everything was on there that you guys wanted, right? Okay, I didn't miss anything. Okay. Help me out here, okay? When I asked you how confident you were in South Shore, you guys said you were. There was no other reason you wouldn't do business with me. You've gotten other estimates. I'm not missing anything. Help me out here. What am I missing? You've said yes, you love us, everything looks great, and now you want to get other estimates. What am I missing, or what didn't I do, or what don't I have that you would need or want in these other estimates? I just went back to everything they gave me earlier, and this is why the questions are important, paying attention to what they're saying. And somebody asked about price conditioning earlier. Instead of beating them over the head with some numbers, I just asked them, did you already get a few other estimates? And they, look, I'm never going to set this up to where they haven't gotten other estimates before. That's
the 2 call.
That's why I do a 2 call. Okay? So then when I sit down and I say, okay, you told me we talked about other contractors, and I asked you if you were comfortable with what they proposed. And so you've already gotten a few other estimates, right? Most people won't even think anything about it. Be like, yeah, we've gotten some other estimates. I was like, cool. So you know roughly what this is going to cost? Yes, great. I've just gotten that out of the way.
But that's because you're counting on them.
That's because you're counting on the competition either presenting the first time they go to the house or sending them an email. Because if you have a competitor that's doing the same thing as you might be going to the second appointment before they are. Right?
Yeah. So let's rewind to the inspection. Okay, when we're on the inspection, one of the questions that we ask is, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. We're all super busy. When are you expecting all your estimates back? I want to make sure I can meet your timeline. And I put it in a way that, I might not be able to get back to them in time, right? Because we're busy. They say, oh yeah, we're waiting. We're expecting everybody to get back to us by next week. Okay, so which day? Like Monday, Tuesday? I just want to make sure that I'm good. Yeah, Tuesday. Okay, great. So you want to have all your estimates in by Tuesday. Fantastic. Now what I've done is I've established what day, or they're going to tell me, well, we have a couple more contractors coming out, whatever, and then we can create a deadline with when they want their estimates by. And I'm going to use that as a guide to set up my second presentation. I want to come in after they're saying they're expecting all their estimates back. And then I sit down and I ask the question about the contractor and say, you've gotten a few other estimates already. And if they say no, I'm going to deal with it right then and there before I try to close the sale. Make sense? Okay. Yeah. Remember, objections are roadblocks. We got to get those roadblocks out before we present our price, right? Because if we don't, then it's much harder to close the sale because I don't really have much to deal with, right? So my perspective is let's handle all the hard stuff up front, figure out what we're dealing with, and now it's really easy for me to ask for the sale. Did any of that seem pushy? We're just having a conversation about what they talked about with me. That was it. And then I'm acting genuinely confused when they're like, no, we're not ready. What? Whoa, what happened? What did I do? What did I say? Right? And I'm doing it with empathy. Most homeowners will engage with you like that.
What if in that scenario, the person would say, I need to sleep on it?
I love that. Get it all the time. We're going to take the weekend, whatever. Okay? I'll deal with that in a second. Throw the cube over to him. He had a quick question.
No, I was going to say, so you went through your golden pledge and the 650, but let's just assume that they're still hung up on price. Is it something that are you willing to try to negotiate it right then and try to get the price, or just let them leave it and then circle back to it? Because I know you have your team that follows up with leads later, but at what point do you decide if that's good business, right? Like, do you try to come out of the gate and close the sale right then? Is it worth it, or do you just let them sleep?
So that's a great question. And what I would say is, and this is the honest truth, it depends on what our close rates are, it depends on what our revenue is, it depends on do we need business, right? But generally the way that we treat this is I say to the homeowner, if they're want to do the estimate comparison, can you match the estimate or whatever? And I'll say to them, look, I appreciate that question. It's a fair question, right? But if I had money in this estimate to negotiate with you, that means I overcharged you in the first place. And that wouldn't be fair or ethical for me to do that to you, would it? And most homeowners look at you and be like, no, it wouldn't. It's like, okay, so I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't overcharge you in the first place. But here's what I can do. We don't usually do this. I'm not sure. Let me call my GM and just see if there's anything we can do for you guys at all. And they'll go make their fake phone call or whatever. And then we treat, look, if I can get down to X, we're good, right? Okay, cool. And that's how we would handle that. To handle what you're talking about, somebody says, look, we want to sleep on it. Okay, great. This is a big decision. I'll go back to, I'll rehash the trial close questions. Yeah, okay. Before I leave, I just want to make sure you have all the information you need. Okay. When we talked about the importance of insurances and licensing, you guys are 100% comfortable, no questions whatsoever on any of that. Good with that? Okay, cool. And the company structure, no questions on that. You guys are 100%, comfortable, how we produce our projects and all that, comfortable with all that? Okay, great. And then the installers, knowing who's going to be on your roof and all of those things that factor into your warranty and the quality, making sure you don't have leaks and all that. No questions on any of that. 100% comfortable. Okay, cool. And in terms of us as a company, you guys said there's really no reason you wouldn't do business with us other than price. Right. Okay, great. Man, help me out here, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You're saying you guys are great. There's no reason you wouldn't do business with us. Nobody explained any of this stuff to you. What am I missing? Is it me? Did I do something wrong? Like, I don't know, I'm lost here.
She won't let me decide right now.
Mrs. Smith?
You're hired.
Listen, I've been doing this for a long time, right? And, I'm just gonna do you a favor here, okay? You said we're a quality company. Our price is fair. We have the colors and styles that you would like and you need, right? Okay, let's just get this off your plate. So you're not laying in bed thinking, you still have to make the decision, you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do. Let me just save you all that time and headache, and let me get this off your plate for you. Which one of these roof systems is gonna work for you? Let's get it signed, let's pick some colors, and you guys can actually relax tonight rather than having to sit here and go back and forth with this decision for more time. How's that sound?
We'll be able to make payments on it instead of having to do one lump sum to you?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. No problem. I can get you signed up right now. Do you want to go ahead and do a no credit pool pre-qualification?
My credit's real bad.
Mrs. Smith, I hope you have good credit.
Mine is-
So that's how I handle that. We want to sleep on it. I rehash the trial close, and then I just act generally confused. And then I tell them, hey, listen, let me do you a favor and get this off your plate. Right? Cube. Okay, so we got some questions online. Andre asked, why not offer best, better, good option with only GAF products? Great question. That's a really, really good question. Remember what I said about homeowners have to be able to make comparisons that they can understand. If you get into the weeds with a homeowner on why you can drop a price with the same manufacturer, we found that was a bigger challenge than just going with 3 different manufacturers, because for some reason it makes sense to homeowners. It's kind of like Ford, Chevy, Lamborghini, right? We all understand, like with Ford, for an example, there's the XL, the XLT, the this, the that, the that. It was harder for us to explain the options because they don't know roofing. So we just landed on it's easier with 3 different manufacturers and changing the warranties. That's really the only reason. It was just for clarity's sake, it just worked better for the homeowners. Okay, Wendy asked, when in this process is the best time to start offering financing? So what I would say is the best time to start offering financing is figuring out if they're a cash customer or if they're a financing customer early on in the sales process. And this is why we ask, is this a project you've been planning for, or is this something that's taking you by surprise? Because generally speaking, they'll tell you, yeah, we haven't really figured that out yet. Great, we got that out of the way. Let's get you a pre-qual, okay? No, we're getting a home equity. No, we have the cash. Great. Okay, so that's how we deal with that. Let's see. So Daniel asked, how do you deal with it if they didn't get the estimates yet? Great question. So the way that I deal with it, so if I ask a homeowner if they're getting all their estimates back by Tuesday, and I sit down with them, and I'm like, hey, Mr. Smith, we talked about the other contractor, so you've already gotten some other estimates, right? And he says, no, I actually haven't gotten any other estimates. I'm going to act shocked and appalled. Wait, what do you mean? When I was out, you told me you had 3 or 4 contractors. They were all supposed to get back to you by Tuesday, and nobody else has gotten you an estimate? Well, no. Are you serious? Okay. They can't even get you an estimate on time? Is that what you're telling me? So, and then I talked, how does that make you feel? Are you comfortable with that? Like, I've never seen this happen. I'll play stupid, right? I'll deal with that right then and there. And if they start giving me indications that I'm not gonna be able to close them, I'm gonna pivot what I'm doing, and we're gonna talk about the estimates and what they're looking for and where they are in the buying cycle and all of that stuff, because if I don't do it, I'm gonna have a really hard time closing them at the end. But if I do my job right, generally that's not happened. I mean, usually they've had a couple of estimates by the time we sit down, if I schedule my follow-up correctly. So that's a good question. I think that was it. Yep, okay. Any other questions? So Andre, do you only offer a class 4 shingle with the GAF Golden Pledge? We don't get hail, so that's not really a consideration in our market. So I'm sorry, I can't really give you any insight on that. Apologize.
From previous companies I've worked at with sales reps, they usually only have like one product that they use. So when they discount, they don't go to like different products and stuff. They usually like do different discounts. Do you have like an opinion on that? Because they usually do like a marketing discount and then they'll even like walk out the door and have like a lost sale closed type of situation too.
Right. I mean, those are old school, like kind of used car sales tactics. I prefer to use these. They're a lot more elegant than, because look, if you can do these deep price discounts and you start offering these, then why not go for, if you have a good homeowner, they're going to go for the jugular and try to get you down to the absolute lowest price, right? If you leave it to price and not quality, remember the point of this, right? Remember what I said the point of this is? Does anybody remember? To elevate the perception of value and lower the importance of price, okay? If we just make it about price, it's a race to the bottom, all right? So, like for an example, we do siding. I hate vinyl. I don't want to do vinyl in Florida. It's trash, right? But we offer vinyl as our good. We offer the prime James Hardy as our better. And then we offer the Color Plus as our best James Hardy, okay? Now, most people in that scenario end up going with the middle, okay? But if I just offered one siding line, then they don't have anything to compare and make that middle one look better, right? And then I explained to them the differences of the vinyl, the Color Plus, and the primed Hardy. Make sense? Yeah.
Oh, that's on me. Okay, I won't spill yours.
It's not broken. What do you do if you're out on your inspection and they're kind of trying to get a price out of you? Like, can you just give us an idea on price, or how do you handle that?
So if both buyers are there, we'll tell them, look, you know what? Let me go in my truck, zip up an estimate for you real quick. Let me see if I can get your measurement report back in time. Like we play dumb like that, because like we'll blame it on being able to get the measurements properly, and say, look, I'm really sorry. This is going to take me a couple hours. I'll get your price here in a little bit. And then we do that early on, and then we try to get to where we want to sit down and do a presentation. So we try to deal with that, as quickly as possible. And or we'll say something like, yeah, I'd love to give you a price. Let's walk around the property. Let's make sure there's no damage. I haven't done a full inspection yet, so I can't really tell. I mean, you could have a whole house of rotted plywood. I don't know. So let's talk about everything. Let's do a full inspection. Hopefully we built enough value by the end that they're not just like hyper fixated on price, all right? Look, if you just leave it to price, guys, it's a race to the bottom. I'm telling you right now. You've already lost. Like if it's all about price, you've already lost. Unless you're the low price contractor, which we're not. We can't be, right? So, Cube.
Okay, being like South Florida, there's a lot of investors, which we've been dealing with a lot lately. They want to, well, they don't have the opportunity. First of all, they have very little time. And second of all, you can't really meet with them in person. How would you do that sale?
I don't need to meet with an investor. I know what their drivers are, right? I know they're going to be price motivated.
Right.
Right? So I'm just going to send them options that are going to meet a budget, You got to know your buyer, right? Realtors are another big one,
Right.
I mean, how do you operate within the confines of, how realtors look at the transaction? Nobody's allowed to make money except for the realtor, right? I mean, that's kind of how they look at it. It's the same thing with investors. Nobody's allowed to make money except the investor. So they want to keep their cost of renovation as low as possible. But what you can do is if you work with a few, just get on the phone with them. Because most investors have dealt with a problem with their contractor not putting the roof on right, not getting the contractor affidavits out so it kills their sale, not closing the permits, failing inspections, and then they don't come back out and correct, right? So you need to ask them those questions. Have you dealt with a roofing contractor that's had these, or have you had these things happen? Okay, and so most of the seasoned investors I know will pay a little bit more. They're not going to pay our like retail price, but they'll buy a IKO Cambridge all day long at 27% margin, right? And so we'll make deals with them and say, listen, if we're your preferred roofing contractor, which I have a couple that we do, I just send them the 25% IKO Cambridge every day because I know that's the only one they're going to buy, right? And they know that we're going to get it done, no problems, everything's going to be closed, and they don't have anything to worry about. So you got to know your buyer. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince them to buy a golden pledge. It's ridiculous. Never happened,
Oh, wait, sorry. One more thing. I did notice, or maybe I missed it because I did go back there for a second, in that you didn't really cover the maintenance. And I know that when you offer warranties, you technically have to inspect it. So we're pushing in like a maintenance program because of that. Would you recommend mentioning that?
On residential asphalt shingle? I've never heard that.
No, for, like for the flat roof, for the NDL for certainty.
Oh,
for
yeah.
instance.
Oh, yeah, if I'm dealing with a commercial client, absolutely, I'm going to talk
Or
to them
if
about
it's a
service and maintenance.
combo,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when it's a combo shingle tile and they do the 5-star or whatever, you do have to go and we do push that.
Sure.
Would you recommend doing like a maintenance program, incorporating in the price? Like how
Well,
would
we
you?
always put an option on there. So we let them know, like as part of your warranty, let's use a commercial roof for an example. As part of your warranty, they require that you get an inspection and do service and maintenance on your roof. What we're going to do is we're going to give you 5 years for free. And then after 5 years, we're going to charge you X amount so that you keep your warranty. And we would just put it as an option for them. And we let them know, look, it's a walk and caulk. We're going to come in, we're going to do, we're going to tighten up all your gaskets. We're going to caulk all your, flashings and sealants. If there's any other maintenance items that need to be dealt with, we'll address that at that time. But it also is good for your insurance carrier because you'll have an existing conditions inspection as part of this, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we definitely broach that when it comes to maintenance and service.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
So our average homeowner is like 80 years old.
Where do you live?
South Florida.
Okay.
But we deal with a lot of retirement,
Yeah.
community, second
I know where this
homes,
is going,
vacation
but-
homes, et cetera.
Yeah.
So considering that the sales rep is going over the presentation properly and asking all the questions, which I cannot guarantee at this time, but just let's pretend
Okay.
that they did the proper job, and then the objection
If I'm going to
is-
die, why would I spend all this money?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we have some comebacks to that, which we have come across several answers like, I don't speak to my kids, I don't care what I leave behind, et cetera. So
Sure.
what?
Yeah, no, that's a really great thing to talk about. And so this is one of the reasons why, and I know, there's a lot of opinions on GAF, and over my 30-year career, it's been mostly positive with them. So this is why we got certified as a Master Elite, because
We're 90%, 95% tile.
what's that?
We're 95% tile roofs only.
Okay, well then that's not going to be a cheap sale regardless, then it doesn't matter, right? So what we do in that case, which we sell a lot of tile as well, we actually give them a till core. So we give them a tile, a till core, and a Brava, okay? And the reason we give them a tile, Tilcor, and Brava is because guess what really looks good when I show them a Brava price? The tile, right? So that's how we handle that. Like, oh, okay, you just want the standard warranty and all that and everything? Great. Well, here you go. If you care about what you're leaving behind, well, let's give you an upgraded product, which is going to be the Tilcor or the Brava. Now, everybody in Florida, how many contractors are here from Florida? Okay, cool. One of the cool things that happened last year in July is the state legislature passed a bill for HOAs. And what the bill basically said was HOAs cannot deny the installation of a material that is either going to upgrade energy efficiency or home safety, meaning hurricane resistance, okay? Based on aesthetics. All right, so which means we have a little bit more latitude now to talk to the homeowners and say, hey, you actually have the right to upgrade this material. We just have to work it out with your architectural review committee or your approval committee. And so that's really given us the latitude to talk about some of these other products that may not have been approved by the HOA prior to. So it's helped us in our sales cycle quite a bit. Well, because before you weren't able to really offer the Brava and the Tilcor because they'd be like, our HOA won't allow it. Now it's like they don't have a choice because Tilcor has a higher wind resistance and so does Brava.
What if they are in that lower range where they're not interested in an upgrade? We have some communities that we deal with a lot. They really are price oriented. And we say a lot of no's to that. But I was just wondering if you would have, what would be your overcome to that objection? They're comparing you, again, granted that they're comparing apples to apples, and you have done your presentation properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are $1,000 to $1,000 more than the competition.
Sure.
And they don't care who they leave to, what they leave to. They're about to die, and they just need to get this done.
That's
because
why
insurance is forcing them. Let's just say.
So did you notice when I did my presentation properly? What were the questions that I asked Mrs. Smith?
What's important to them, their urgency, what they value.
What are your fears about this project, et cetera, right? So that's the differentiator there, okay? And if they're like, yeah, I don't care about anything, it's just about price, okay, let me find a lower cost solution. I mean, you can use some crown tile or, crown's a little bit cheaper than everything else. So, do, crown, Eagle, and the highest cost Westlake. I don't know, figure out a way to help them compare. Look, people don't think in relative terms, meaning if you don't give them those options, the only thing they have to compare against is the other estimates. Okay? So if you leave them to just make those comparisons, you're gonna have a hard time. If you give them the options and use those comparisons to your advantage, and then compare your company, what you offer and what you do, versus the other company that did or didn't say anything, then you can ask them, are we making a fair comparison here? I use one called the F-150 comparison, right? And it kind of goes like this. I say, look, I can understand where you're coming from if you're looking at their estimate versus ours. I can understand where you're coming from, but let me ask you this, Mr. and Ms. Homeowner, and I'll tell them, just bear with me here because I think maybe this will help. And I say, I have two F-150 trucks, okay? One F-150 truck costs $7,000. The other one costs $15,000. Which F-150 do you want? Would you buy?
What year is it? How many miles are on it? What kind of condition?
Hey, you really have some questions about why there's such a huge price difference, right? You need more information. You need to understand what the differences are between the two F-150s, right? And that's fair. And I'm like, the unfortunate part is most people have bought cars before. They've been taught how to shop for cars. Unfortunately, most people aren't taught how to make the comparisons between contractors. And so what I'm asking you is, what are the big differences then between us as a company and the other one that you're considering? What are the big differences that are going to determine which one you're going to hire? And if they say it's just price, okay, great. So you're comfortable with them potentially not being fully insured, not knowing who's going to be on the roof doing the install, could open you up to a bunch of problems, potential leaks, things like that. I'll go back to the Better Business Bureau stuff. I'll go back to the failure rate. And I'm like, and so you're comfortable with all that just based on price. Great. Okay, you're not my customer. You're really not. Most people are not that price fixated. They want value for their money. Yep. So that's why I use that F-150 comparison, because then people are like, oh, that actually makes sense. So, but if they're just hyper fixated on price and I can't build any value, they're just not my customer. I can't do anything about that. And I probably don't want to work for them anyway. Yeah. All right, before we wrap it up, any other questions?
Not a question, just a statement. All the questions that you asked all turned into, when I tried to object, you were saying, well, you told me, and that's like the most powerful thing you can say, because you're not just pulling up this thing out of thin air. It's, I asked you this question and you told me this, what's changed now? And it makes me a little uncomfortable, like there's nothing you can say to object to that. I told you that, now you're throwing it back on me.
Right.
And each
And-
time you asked for understanding and asked if we felt comfortable.
Right. You know, like, hey, do you guys understand this? You feel comfortable with this? Okay, cool. So, and then I repeat back to it. So what I'm hearing you say is this. Yeah, that's what we said. Great. Now I'm not objecting. I'm just holding them accountable for what they said. And it's not high pressure. It's just like, look, what's changed, man? I'm really confused here. Right? Like, I thought we were doing good. I thought, you found the love of your life, man. Like, I'm crushed. Like, what? Well, yeah, like, is it my breath? Do I smell? Like, what's going on,
I told them they're gonna hire you to come to our roof.
Yeah. All right, no more questions? Cube.
Good, better, best. Same margins?
Oh, yeah.
Margin on the best? Just zero cost.
Yeah, best, better. So that's a really good question. So I think what's more important is the price difference than the margin. So what I mean by that is, so we actually sell our golden pledge at a little bit higher margin because we needed that gap between Atlas and GAF to be a little bigger than it would be if we just looked at the price difference of, correct. Yep, that's a great question.
That's the psychology based on which product you want to choose.
Yeah, exactly. Like if the difference between each option is a total of $1,000, I'm like, well, fucking, let's go with the low one. Who cares, right? I mean, so you want your pricing to be spaced appropriately. There's got to be a big enough gap for them to make sense, right?
You typically fall better.
No, we actually sell more golden pledges than anything. Yeah. Based on the warranty. Yep. The big one is, which we've been leveraging the living daylights out of, is, we get this a lot, right? Like people are like, well, I'm 75, like, why do I care or whatever? And it's like, well, you should care, because if we have another hurricane and your shingles blow off, you don't have to deal with your insurance carrier, right? Have you dealt with your insurance carrier? Yeah, they're awful. Okay, great. Let's take them out of the equation. Your shingles blow off. We'll come back and fix it for free. And then we'll deal with GAF. No, you don't have to worry about your deductible or anything like that. They're like, oh, really? It's like, okay. So because the big objection we get is the 15 years, they're going to make me change my roof anyway, right? And so we had to deal with that, because people are like, why am I going to buy a higher priced roof system if they're just going to make me change it in 15 years? I don't give a shit. The unlimited wind warranty with GAF. Yep. Or we try to upgrade them to metal. So one of those two. Because if they're like, hey, are you going to stay in the house? Yes. Well, hey, let's put on a metal roof, and then you never have to worry about it again, And then when they see the price for metal, they're like, that kind of GAF kind of looks pretty good. Right.
All righty, guys. Round of applause for our volunteers.